All right, let's talk about dopamine. When you hear that word, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, it's pleasure, right? It's that feel-good hit from eating a piece of chocolate or getting a like on social media. But what if I told you that's, well, not really the whole picture, that the real story is so much more interesting? See, it turns out dopamine isn't really the pleasure chemical at all. Its main job, its real job, is something way more fundamental to how we learn, how we adapt, and basically how we become who we are. So what is it actually doing? So you've got this popular myth. Dopamine is the molecule of pleasure. Simple, easy. But the reality, which scientists have been piecing together for decades, is that dopamine is the molecule of learning. It's not about how good something feels in the moment, it's about how much your brain can learn from that experience. It's kind of like the code that lets our brain update its own software. And to really get this, we have to start with this surprisingly simple idea, prediction. Our brain is, at its very core, a prediction machine. It is constantly, and I mean constantly, trying to guess what's going to happen next. And this is where the real story of dopamine begins. You almost certainly remember this one from a high school science class. You know the story, right? 100 years ago, Ivan Pavlov rings a bell, then gives his dog some meat powder. He does this over and over. Pretty soon, the dogs start salivating at just the sound of the bell long before any food shows up. And here is the absolute key to everything. The dogs weren't just reacting to the food. Their brains had learned to use the bell to predict the future. That's the whole game. Learning isn't really about the reward itself. It's all about getting better at anticipating when a reward is coming. Okay, fine, but how does the brain actually do that? How does it get better at predicting? Well, the next clue, and this is pretty amazing, doesn't come from biology at all. It comes from the world of computer science and machine learning. So computer scientists trying to teach machines how to learn came up with this really elegant idea called reward prediction error. You can just think of it as a simple formula for surprise. It's just the difference between what you actually got and what you thought you were going to get. It's how any system, whether it's an AI or a brain, learns from its mistakes. Let's make this super simple. Imagine you're at a vending machine. You expect one snack, and you get exactly one snack. No big deal, right? The outcome perfectly matched your expectation. Your prediction error is 0. There's no surprise, so your brain just kind of shrugs. Nothing new to learn here. But now, imagine you expect one snack, and 2 come tumbling out. Whoa, that is a pleasant surprise. The outcome was way better than you expected. And that creates a positive prediction error. Your brain lights up and basically says, hey, this machine is awesome. We should definitely do that again. And that action, using that machine, gets stronger. And then, of course, there's the other side of it. You expect one snack, and you get nothing. The machine just eats your money. That's a huge letdown, a negative prediction error. The outcome was much worse than expected. Your brain says, okay, note to self, never, ever use this machine again. And that behavior gets a lot weaker. So for a long time, this was just this powerful theoretical algorithm that computer scientists were using. And then neuroscientists started recording from dopamine neurons in the brains of monkeys, and what they found was just absolutely stunning. It was the moment these two different worlds just collided. So in this landmark experiment by a scientist named Wolfram Schultz, a thirsty monkey gets an unexpected drop of juice. And the moment that surprise juice arrives, his dopamine neurons just fire like crazy in a huge burst. That right there, that's our positive prediction error. The reward was way better than expected because he was expecting nothing. Now, this is where it gets absolutely incredible. The researchers then started flashing a light right before giving the juice. And once the monkey learned that the light predicted the juice, the dopamine neurons stopped firing for the juice itself. Instead, they fired for the light. The brain's surprise signal had literally moved to the earliest possible clue that a reward was on its way. And here's the final, crucial piece of evidence. The researchers would show the light, which created the expectation of juice, but then they wouldn't give him the juice. And right at the moment the juice should have arrived, the dopamine neurons didn't just go quiet. They actually dipped below their normal baseline firing rate. A negative prediction error, written right there in the brain. So think about it. A big burst for a good surprise. A dip for a bad surprise. And no change at all when things go exactly as planned. This pattern wasn't just similar to the algorithm from computer science, it was a perfect one-to-one match. The scientists had found the living, breathing code for reward prediction error inside the brain. Okay, so this is way more than just a cool biological fact. This error signal is like the fundamental currency the brain uses to update its map of the world and to guide every single action we take. So let's see how this signal actually turns into behavior. And what's amazing is we can see this exact same pattern in us, in humans. When people are in an fMRI scanner, you can see that activity in the dopamine-rich parts of the brain, like the striatum, perfectly tracks the size of their prediction error. A little disappointment causes a little dip. A huge, pleasant surprise causes a massive spike in activity. The code is universal. So where does this dopamine signal go? Well, these neurons broadcast this error message to this really critical area deep in the brain called the basal ganglia. You can think of the basal ganglia as the brain's central command hub for deciding what to do next. Now, inside the basal ganglia, dopamine works on these two competing circuits. Think of them as a gas pedal and a brake. A burst of dopamine, that positive surprise, strengthens the go pathway. It's like hitting the gas. It makes you more likely to do that thing again. A dip in dopamine, that negative surprise, strengthens the no-go pathway. That's hitting the brakes, making you less likely to try that again. It's this beautiful, simple system for learning through trial and error. So let's zoom out for a second. What's the really big picture here? I mean, this isn't just about monkeys and juice or dogs and bells. This simple, elegant algorithm, all driven by dopamine, is a fundamental code that shapes almost everything we think, feel, and do. And once you understand this code, it gives you these incredible insights into so much of our lives. It's how we learn any new skill, whether it's riding a bike or learning an instrument. It helps explain the devastating power of addiction, where drugs of abuse hijack this exact system, creating a prediction error signal that is always, artificially, better than expected. And it helps us understand the tragic symptoms of Parkinson's disease, which is literally caused by the death of these dopamine neurons, leading to a breakdown of the brain's ability to hit the go signal for movement. And that kind of leaves us with this one last, really profound thought. From our smallest, most unconscious habits to our biggest, most life-altering decisions, every single choice we make is subtly nudged by these little bursts and dips of dopamine. Could it really be that the entire complex trajectory of a human life is guided by this simple, constant whisper of prediction error, firing deep inside our brains?